Keisha Fernandez mid-polish as billionaire and finance mogul. Jonathan Sterling waved a document in Cantonese language before his executive team, her secret fluency burning in her throat. Anyone who can translate this merger proposal gets my salary for a day. $45,300, Sterling announced, nudging aside Keisha's cleaning cart with his Italian leather shoe. The conference room erupted in laughter as executives exchanged knowing glances. Keisha kept her eyes down, focusing on the circular motion of her cloth against the mahogany table. Maybe we should just use Google Translate, joked Richard Murphy, VP of Operations, his Yale class ring clinking against his water glass. Probably more reliable than whatever discount service we'd get otherwise. Keisha's phone vibrated in her pocket, a reminder of the eviction notice, 72 hours before the court hearing that could leave her family homeless. $45,300, the exact amount standing between dignity and desperation. Her fingers closed around the jade bracelet in her pocket, her father's final gift. A skill hidden, a heritage denied, a chance dangling before her. Would revealing her true self to those who looked through her bring salvation or merely new humiliation? The question hung in the air like a prophecy as she slipped from the room, invisible once more. Keisha hadn't always been invisible. 15 years ago, she was the bright-eyed 8-year-old who amazed her teachers by switching effortlessly between 3 languages. Her Hong Kong mother, Mei Ling, had met her African-American father, Marcus, at an international education conference in Chicago. Their love story had flourished, despite cultural differences, bound by a shared passion for languages and education. Words build bridges between worlds, Marcus would tell Keisha, his voice gentle as he taught her to write characters that danced across the page. By 10, she could translate conversations between her Cantonese-speaking grandparents and her father's family from Atlanta, earning proud smiles from both sides of her family. The jade bracelet had been her 13th birthday gift, cool and weighty in her palm, its smooth surface interrupted only by carved character spelling, "Knowledge illuminates." When she held it close, she could smell the faint jasmine scent of her father's study, where they'd spent countless hours poring over texts in multiple languages. This bracelet belonged to a great scholar, her father had explained. Now, it belongs to another. 3 months later, Marcus Fernandez was laid off from Sterling Capital during a strategic restructuring. After 15 years developing the company's Hong Kong and mainland China market partnerships, he was discarded with a severance package that barely covered 2 months' rent. The health insurance disappeared overnight. When the persistent cough turned out to be stage 4 lung cancer, the medical bills accumulated faster than the rejection letters from his job applications. Keisha remembered the night her father had returned from an interview at a competitor, his face ashen. "They can't hire me," he'd whispered to Mei Ling. "Sterling has blackballed me throughout the industry. Something about proprietary knowledge." 6 months later, Marcus was gone, leaving behind $56,755 in medical debt, a heartbroken family, and a jade bracelet that Keisha now carried everywhere, as both talisman and burden Mei Ling took on 3 housekeeping jobs. Her finance degree from Hong Kong University useless. Without American credentials or connections, Keisha's dream of a linguistic scholarship evaporated when Mei Ling's first stroke hit, forcing the 17-year-old to abandon her senior year and find immediate work. Now at 23, Keisha's days followed a punishing rhythm, cleaning offices at Sterling Capital from 3 p.m. to midnight, caring for her partially paralyzed mother until dawn, grabbing 3 hours of sleep, then translating academic papers online from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. under the pseudonym Linguistic Bridge. The anonymous translation work paid $34 per hour, far better than her cleaning job's $15. But clients were inconsistent, and revealing her identity risked losing the healthcare coverage her mother desperately needed. 60 hours of work each week every month, $2,500 for rent on their 1-bedroom apartment, $57 for her mother's medications, $390 for the payment plan on her father's medical debt, $195 for groceries, $125 for utilities. The arithmetic of survival left nothing for savings. For 5 years, Keisha had moved through Sterling Capital like a ghost, emptying trash bins while executives discussed billion-dollar deals. She'd learned to make herself invisible while her ears caught everything: strategic acquisitions, product launches, personnel changes. Her fluency in Cantonese, Spanish, and English transformed meaningless background noise for others into valuable intelligence for her. She knew Jonathan Sterling had cut employee retirement contributions while purchasing a $17,700,000 vacation home in the Hamptons. She knew Richard Murphy had taken credit for the Hong Kong expansion strategy that junior analyst David Chen had actually developed. She knew the company's public commitment to diversity masked systemic wage gaps. Maintenance staff were 84% people of color, while executive leadership was 95% white knowledge without power, intelligence without opportunity. Keisha cleaned their coffee rings while understanding every word they said about Asian markets, Hispanic consumers, and untapped multilingual demographics. The irony wasn't lost on her, but irony didn't pay bills or prevent evictions. And now the 72 hours countdown had begun. Her mother's disability appeal had been denied again. The final eviction notice would be processed Monday morning. Without $28,000 for back rent and legal fees, they would join the invisible ranks of the displaced, those who built, cleaned, and sustained the city without being welcomed by it. The document appeared on Sterling's desk at precisely 9:15 a.m. on Friday morning. Keisha noticed because she was polishing the glass trophy case nearby, close enough to see the Hong Kong postmark and the logo of Wong Financial Group, one of Hong Kong's largest investment firms. She also noticed how Sterling's perpetually composed face flickered with momentary panic. By noon, the executive floor was in chaos. Urgent meeting notifications pinged across monitors. The translation team was scrambled. Then, the bad news delivered. Jennifer, the head translator, was in Hong Kong visiting family, and her two associates were at an industry conference in Singapore. Keisha emptied wastebaskets methodically, moving through the commotion like a shadow, when Sterling burst from his office, waving the document, "Everyone in the conference room, now!" She should have left. Her shift technically ended at noon on Fridays, but curiosity, or perhaps fate, kept her lingering, wiping down already clean surfaces as the executives assembled. Sterling slammed the document onto the table. "Wong is offering us exclusive rights to their new investment platform. This could double our market share in Asia." "That's fantastic news," ventured Murphy, confusion evident in his voice. "It would be," Sterling snapped, "if we could read the damn thing. They've sent it in Cantonese, and our translation team is unavailable. They want a response in 72 hours, or they're taking the deal to Goldman Sachs." Keisha's heart quickened. She recognized several characters visible on the cover page, technical terms her father had taught her, specifications for financial derivatives and portfolio management. "Can't we use a service?" asked David Chen, "for something this confidential and technical?" Sterling scoffed. "Do you want our competitive advantage leaked to every finance firm on Wall Street?" The executives shifted uncomfortably. Keisha's cloth moved in silent circles on the credenza. "I'll make it worth someone's while," Sterling continued, his voice taking on a performative edge as he noticed her presence. "Translate this 30-page proposal accurately in 48 hours, and I'll give you my daily salary. That's $45,300. The room fell silent. Then Murphy laughed, others joining nervously. "Maybe even the cleaning lady can try," Sterling added, gesturing toward Keisha, "though I doubt they teach Cantonese in housekeeping school." More laughter, sharper this time. Keisha kept her eyes down, but her fingers tightened around her cleaning cloth. "We'll divide it among the team," Murphy suggested. "Use translation software for the first pass, then clean it up." "Fine," Sterling conceded. "But remember, 72 hours until Wong walks, and these documents don't leave this building's security protocols in full effect." As the executives dispersed, grabbing copies of the document, Keisha noticed two things. First, they were badly mistranslating even the title page, murmuring about partnership opportunities when the characters clearly indicated exclusive management contract. Second, the 72-hour deadline aligned precisely with her eviction timeline. Sterling's daily salary would cover her mother's immediate medical needs and the overdue rent. But revealing her skills could cost her job if she failed, or worse, if she succeeded and threatened the executives' egos. And what if the document contained the same predatory policies that had destroyed her father's career? Would the same company that had ruined her family now profit from her hidden talent? And if she refused this chance, would she ever forgive herself? Keisha made her decision at 12:45 a.m. Standing in the dim light of her apartment kitchenette, her mother slept fitfully in the converted living room, medical monitors casting blue shadows across her face. The eviction notice lay beside Keisha's translation notes, the number 72 circled in red, counting down the hours until Monday's court hearing. She wouldn't reveal herself directly, not yet. Too risky? But she could test the waters, see how valuable her skills might prove. Saturday night found her back at Sterling Capital, her cleaning uniform a perfect disguise for after-hours access. The executive floor stood empty, the security guard nodding familiarly as she wheeled her cart past his station. Working weekend overtime. My mama needs medicine, she answered, exaggerating her accent, playing the role they expected. In the conference room, executives had left their translation attempts scattered across the whiteboard, a mess of mistranslated technical jargon and business terms. Keisha winced at their mangled interpretations. Using her jade bracelet for luck, she carefully corrected 3 critical sections, translating the complex financial terminology with precision. She signed it simply, Night Owl. The corrections were specific enough to demonstrate expertise, but limited enough to seem like helpful hints rather than a complete solution, a test balloon to gauge reaction. By Sunday morning, her anonymous assistants had created a stir. Arriving early with her cleaning cart, Keisha lingered near the conference room door, eavesdropping. "Who the hell is Night Owl?" Sterling demanded. "Security says nobody unauthorized entered the building," Murphy responded. "Must be someone on our team." Keisha watched through the gap in the door as Murphy studied the whiteboard, his expression calculating. Then, to her disbelief, he erased her signature and turned to Sterling. "Actually, I did this part," Murphy claimed smoothly. "I've been studying Cantonese privately. Didn't want to make a big deal of it until I was more fluent, but given the emergency..." Sterling clapped him on the shoulder. "Finally, some initiative around here. Take point on this, Murphy. Coordinate the team's efforts." Keisha's small victory turned to ash. Murphy was promoted to project lead based on her work. The injustice burned, but she couldn't afford indignation, not with only 48 hours remaining before eviction. That night, with her mother finally asleep, Keisha spread the photographed documents across their kitchen table. Working through the technical portions, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. The contract included provisions for workforce optimization requirements, language that would allow Sterling to lay off 250 workers at the operations center in exchange for reduced administrative costs. Among those workers would be her mother's cousin's family, who had finally found stability after immigrating from Hong Kong last year. Keisha sat back, the jade bracelet suddenly heavy on her wrist. Complete the translation anonymously and enable more families to suffer, or reveal herself and risk everything. Her phone buzzed with a text from her supervisor. New security cameras installed in executive wing. All cleaning staff must complete tasks before 8 p.m. until further notice. The window was closing. With her after-hours access restricted, Keisha resorted to desperate measures. During her Monday shift, she hid in bathroom stalls during breaks, translating frantically on scraps of paper. She worked through lunch in the supply closet, racing against both Sterling's deadline and her own now, just 48 hours until the eviction hearing. By Monday evening, she had completed translations for roughly 50% of the document. She carefully placed more anonymous night owl notes in the conference room, watching as Murphy continued claiming credit, growing more confident with each successful interpretation. The countdown ticked. 48 hours until eviction. 24 hours until Wong's deadline. Keisha's eyes burned from lack of sleep. Her hands were cramped from writing. Her mother's condition deteriorated, the stress of potential homelessness causing her blood pressure to spike dangerously. "We need a miracle," her mother whispered that night in Cantonese, clutching Keisha's hand. What her mother didn't know was that Keisha had the miracle within her grasp, if only she dared reach for it. "We have a security breach." The words cut through Tuesday morning's executive meeting like a blade. Keisha, arranging coffee service, kept her expression neutral as the security chief played video footage showing a shadowy figure in the conference room after hours. "The cameras caught someone, but the angle doesn't show a face," he explained. "Could be industrial espionage." "Investigate everyone," Sterling ordered, especially maintenance staff with after-hours access. Keisha felt Murphy's gaze fixed on her. Had he connected her to the mysterious translations? By afternoon, security guards were interviewing all cleaning personnel. When Keisha's turn came, she played her role perfectly, the simple cleaner who barely spoke standard English, confused by complicated questions. "I don't understand the problem," she repeated, hating herself for the performance, but recognizing its protective power. "I just clean, don't touch papers." The security chief seemed satisfied, but Murphy lingered after the interview, his Yale ring tapping against the desk. Interesting, he said once they were alone. You seem to understand English perfectly when I'm giving cleaning instructions? Keisha shrugged, eyes downcast. Instructions are simple. Questions are complicated. Murphy leaned closer. I think you understand more than you let on. Much more. That evening, Keisha found her locker had been searched. Her stomach dropped when she realized what was missing. The jade bracelet. Her father's gift. Her talisman. Looking for this? Murphy held the bracelet dangling from his fingers when he cornered her in the empty break room. Quite an unusual item for a cleaning lady. These characters here, knowledge illuminates. Rather sophisticated, don't you think? Keisha reached for it, but Murphy pulled it back. Security is very concerned about unauthorized items that could be used for corporate espionage. I've taken the liberty of filing a report. By Tuesday morning, HR had issued Keisha a formal warning for possession of unauthorized materials and suspicious behavior. Without her jade bracelet, her connection to her father, her confidence, Keisha felt unarmed, her certainty faltering. The eviction countdown showed 32 hours remaining. Her mother had been taken to the emergency room with chest pains, depleting their meager savings for the ambulance copay. The apartment manager had posted the final eviction notice. 48 hours until they would change the locks. Desperate, Keisha used her lunch break to access Murphy's computer while he attended a meeting. What she discovered horrified her. Murphy had deliberately mistranslated key sections of the Wong proposal, sections that would not only harm workers, but potentially violate international finance laws. Sterling was about to sign an agreement that could trigger investigations and massive fines. When she returned to cleaning duties, Murphy was waiting. I know it's you, he said without preamble. The mysterious translator. I checked the personnel files. Your mother is Mei Ling Fernandez, formerly Mei Ling Chan from Hong Kong. Your father worked here until we, how shall I put it, right-sized him. Keisha's mask slipped. My father was an invaluable asset to this company. Murphy's eyebrows rose at her perfect English. So she speaks. I wondered how long you'd keep up the act. Give me back my bracelet. After I speak with immigration about your mother's visa status, Murphy countered, expired, isn't it? Since your father's death. Would be a shame if authorities were notified. The threat hung between them. Speak up and face deportation threats, or remain silent while hundreds lose their livelihoods. And Sterling Capital commits corporate suicide, 24 until eviction. 12 hours until the Wong deadline. Keisha had never felt more trapped, or more determined. The emergency board meeting began at 9 a.m. Thursday, exactly 12 hours before the Wong financial deadline. Keisha moved silently around the conference room perimeter, pouring coffee and arranging pastries as Murphy presented his completed translation to Sterling and the board members. As you can see, Murphy explained, pointing to his PowerPoint, the terms are highly favorable. Wong is offering exclusive platform access at rates 20% below market with minimal regulatory oversight. Keisha winced at his mistranslation. The document actually specified stringent regulatory protocols with 20% higher compliance standards than industry average. Their only unusual request, Murphy continued, is accelerated implementation scheduling, using what translates roughly as modified staff allocations. Keisha's hands trembled as she refilled the water pitcher. Murphy was deliberately obscuring the mass layoffs the contract would require. There's a technical section about the Lao Dung Mo Sing process that's still unclear, Murphy admitted, butchering the pronunciation so badly that Keisha couldn't stop herself from flinching. Sterling noticed. Something wrong with the coffee girl? All eyes turned to her. The moment stretched, her future balanced on a knife's edge. Lao Dung Mo Sing, Keisha corrected softly in perfect Cantonese tones. It means fluid modeling system, not whatever he said. The room froze. Excuse me, Murphy demanded. Keisha straightened her shoulders. 16 years of language study, overtaking 5 years of practiced invisibility. You've mistranslated several critical sections. Lao Dung Mo Sing refers to the portfolio's risk management system, which requires specialized handling during implementation. It's not about staff reallocation. It's about technical specifications. How dare you interrupt? Murphy began, but Sterling cut him off. You speak Cantonese? Sterling demanded, studying Keisha as if seeing her for the first time. Cantonese, Spanish, and English, Keisha answered, her heart pounding. I also read Mandarin and some Japanese, though my speaking fluency is limited. She's lying, Murphy interjected. She's just a cleaner. My father was Marcus Fernandez, Keisha continued, gaining confidence with each word. He built your Hong Kong and mainland China market divisions before your strategic restructuring 5 years ago. He taught me business Cantonese and financial terminology since childhood. Recognition flickered in Sterling's eyes. Fernandez. I remember him. This is absurd, Murphy protested. She's probably working for our competitors. Check my credentials, Keisha challenged, pulling out her phone to display her profile on translationbridge.com. I work under the username Linguistic Bridge. I have a 4.98 rating with over 400 academic and technical translations completed, specializing in finance and business documents. Sterling took her phone, scrolling through the impressive client list and testimonials, his business instincts clearly wrestling with his prejudices. Murphy, your translation mentions nothing about regulatory protocols, Keisha continued, addressing the board. It also obscures the fact that Wong Financial is requiring you to lay off 250 operations workers as a condition of the deal, which would violate 3 separate labor agreements you've signed. The board members murmured, looking between Murphy and Keisha. This is outrageous, Murphy sputtered. You can't possibly… Page 16, paragraph 4, Keisha recited from memory in Cantonese, then translated to English. The characters clearly state that Sterling Capital must implement workforce reduction measures of no less than 250 positions within 50 days of contract execution. I can read the entire section verbatim if you'd like. Sterling studied her for a long moment, calculation replacing surprise. You claim you can translate this entire document accurately. I've already translated about 70% of it, Keisha admitted. I was leaving anonymous notes to help, the ones Mr. Murphy has been taking credit for. Murphy's face flushed crimson as heads turned toward him. You were the night owl? Sterling asked. Keisha nodded. A slow smile spread across Sterling's face. Not warm, but predatory, recognizing an opportunity. My offer stands, he said. Translate the complete document by tomorrow's 9 a.m. deadline, and my daily salary is yours. $45,300. I want it in writing, Keisha countered, surprising herself with her boldness. And I want my bracelet back. Your bracelet? Sterling frowned. My jade bracelet. Mr. Murphy confiscated it yesterday and filed it as suspicious material. All eyes turned to Murphy, who reluctantly pulled the bracelet from his jacket pocket. And I want a written contract guaranteeing my continued employment regardless of the translation outcome, Keisha added, with a confidentiality clause protecting my mother's immigration status. The room fell silent at her audacity. Sterling studied her with new interest, perhaps even respect. Draw up the agreement, he finally instructed his assistant, and get Miss Fernandez whatever resources she needs. As the jade bracelet was returned to her wrist, Keisha felt its familiar weight, cool, solid, grounding. The countdown reset in her mind. 6 hours to translate the remaining document while her mother faced eviction in 12 hours. For the first time in years, she was visible, for better or worse. Keisha worked through the night in a small conference room they'd assigned her, fueled by adrenaline and vending machine coffee. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, the jade bracelet on her wrist, guiding her through complex technical terminology and subtle cultural nuances that machine translation could never capture. By 3 a.m., her eyes burned. The characters began swimming on the page. She had completed nearly 85% of the translation, carefully noting discrepancies between what Wong Financial was actually offering and what Murphy had claimed. The truth was somewhere in between. Not as rosy as Murphy painted, but not as exploitative as she initially feared. The workforce reductions were suggested, not required, and Wong had included provisions for retraining programs. Her phone buzzed with a text from her neighbor, who was sitting with her mother at the hospital. Doctors want to keep her another day. Need $3,600 deposit for continued care. Keisha massaged her temples. 12 hours until eviction. 6 hours until her translation deadline. She allowed herself a moment of hope. Sterling's money would solve their immediate crisis. She could negotiate with the landlord, pay the hospital, perhaps even find better housing, closer to medical facilities. She rested her head on her arms just for a moment. The crash of coffee splashing across her desk jolted her awake. Keisha gasped as hot liquid spilled across her handwritten notes and seeped into her laptop keyboard. Oh, clumsy me. Murphy stood over her, empty coffee cup in hand. Fake concern plastered across his face. I was just bringing you a fresh cup. You looked so exhausted. Keisha jumped up, frantically dabbing at the spreading liquid with tissues. Her laptop screen flickered, then went black. My translation, she began, panic rising. Don't worry, Murphy said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I took the liberty of moving your digital files to my secure drive for safekeeping. Can't be too careful with such sensitive material. Give them back, Keisha demanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I would, but unfortunately there seems to have been some sort of corruption technical glitch. He shrugged. These things happen. The digital backup was gone. 4 hours before deadline. Keisha would need to reconstruct critical sections from memory and the coffee-stained notes that remained legible. As Murphy sauntered out, he called over his shoulder, Sterling expects perfection, you know. One mistranslated clause could cost the company millions. I'm sure he'll understand if you need to withdraw from the challenge. Keisha's phone buzzed again, this time her landlord. Eviction processor coming tomorrow morning instead of Monday. Legal approved acceleration due to repeated late payments. She stared at the ruined papers, the dead laptop, feeling the walls closing in. 3 hours of work lost. Mother in the hospital. Eviction imminent. Murphy had outmaneuvered her at every turn. For one moment, she considered giving up, walking away, finding another cleaning job somewhere Sterling and Murphy couldn't touch her. Then her phone rang. The hospital. Her mother's condition had worsened. They needed payment authorization for additional treatment. Keisha worked frantically, recreating translations from memory, her hand touching the jade bracelet on her wrist for strength. 2 hours passed. 3. As dawn broke, exhaustion overtook her. Her head drooped, eyes closing despite her best efforts. She awakened to Sterling standing over her, Murphy smirking behind him. The wall clock showed 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes until deadline. I expected this, Sterling announced, taking in her disheveled appearance, the scattered papers, the coffee stains. People should stay in their lanes. Housekeepers clean, executives execute. That's why I'm rich and you're, well, exactly where you belong. He turned to his assistant. Draft a termination notice. Clearly, Miss Washington violated company policy by accessing confidential documents without proper authorization. But our agreement, Keisha protested, was contingent on delivery, Sterling cut her off, and you failed to deliver. I can explain. Call Translation Pro, Sterling instructed Murphy, ignoring her. See if they can start from scratch this afternoon. We'll have to ask Wong for an extension. Murphy's triumphant expression said everything. Keisha sat frozen, watching her one chance at saving her family collapse under corporate cruelty. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Words build bridges between worlds. But what happened when those bridges were deliberately burned? Had she risked everything only to end up in a worse position than before? As Sterling turned to leave, Keisha's gaze fell on her bag, where the edge of a notebook peeked out her father's research journal. She'd brought it for reference, forgotten until this moment. Wait, she called, a new clarity cutting through her exhaustion. Sterling paused at the door, irritation evident. We're done here. My father worked on this exact financial platform, Keisha said, pulling out the journal, the Wong Dynamic Portfolio System. He was part of the original development team before Wong Financial acquired the framework from a mainland partner. She flipped through the journal, finding her father's detailed notes on the implementation process. Diagrams, specifications, testing parameters. Information not even included in the Wong documents. Because they assumed Sterling Capital already understood the foundational methodology, these notes contain details about the risk modeling system that aren't explained in the proposal because they're proprietary knowledge. Keisha stood straighter, confidence returning. I can complete this translation with technical precision no translation agency could match. You have 10 minutes, Sterling said after a calculating pause. Keisha worked with renewed focus. Her father's journal opened beside her. She wrote with certainty, filling gaps, clarifying ambiguities, noting technical specifications that the Wong document only referenced obliquely. At precisely 8:58 a.m., she walked into the boardroom where executives had gathered for the Wong video conference. She placed the completed translation before Sterling, who scanned it skeptically. The video call is starting, his assistant announced. Sterling hesitated, glancing between the translation Murphy and Keisha. Miss Fernandez, perhaps you should... I'll wait outside, Keisha said, turning to leave. Actually, came a voice from the video screen in Cantonese, we would prefer if Miss Fernandez stayed. Everyone turned to the large display where Thomas Wong, CEO of Wong Financial, appeared with his executive team. Beside him sat a familiar face, Mr. Leung, her father's former colleague. Miss Fernandez, Leung said in Cantonese, It is an honor to meet Marcus's daughter. He spoke of your linguistic gifts often. Keisha responded in flawless Cantonese, her surprise giving way to understanding. The honor is mine, Mr. Leung. I didn't realize you were aware of my employment here. We weren't, Thomas Wong interjected in Cantonese, until our intelligence team noted someone was accurately translating our deliberately complex proposal. Few people could navigate those technical terms correctly. Sterling looked between them. Understanding nothing of the rapid Cantonese exchange, Keisha switched to English. Mr. Wong says they included technical complexities as a test. They wanted to see if Sterling Capital still retained the expertise my father helped build. And do we pass this test? Sterling asked cautiously. That depends, Keisha answered, switching back to Cantonese to address Wong directly. The proposal contains ambiguities regarding workforce requirements that could be interpreted as requiring layoffs. Was this intentional? A subtle smile crossed Wong's face. Very perceptive. We have concerns about Sterling's labor practices since Mr. Fernandez's departure. The workforce language was deliberately ambiguous to see how they would interpret it. Keisha turned to Sterling. Wong Financial is concerned about your company's approach to workforce management. They included that section as a character test. Murphy stepped forward. This is ridiculous. She's making this up to... Perhaps, Keisha interrupted. Mr. Murphy would like to explain why he deliberately mistranslated key sections and sabotaged my work. She pulled out her phone, showing security footage she'd recovered during her night of research. Murphy clearly visible pouring coffee on her computer and deleting files from her directory. The room fell silent. Sterling's expression hardened as he watched the indisputable evidence. Mr. Murphy, he said quietly, you're fired. Security will escort you out. As Murphy was removed, protesting loudly, Wong spoke again in Cantonese. We will proceed with the contract on one condition, that Miss Fernandez oversees the implementation as our cultural liaison. Keisha translated the conversation in real time. The jade bracelet catching the light on her wrist, no longer a memento of loss, but a symbol of her authority. They insist on working directly with me as a condition of the deal, Keisha explained. The power dynamic in the room shifting palpably. Sterling studied her, recognizing the leverage she now held. With the Wong deadline minutes away and millions at stake, he had no choice. Fine, he conceded. Miss Fernandez will oversee the cultural aspects of the implementation. The video call concluded with Wong expressing his pleasure at finding Marcus Fernandez's legacy alive at Sterling Capital. As the executives dispersed, Sterling approached Keisha. It seems I underestimated you. Many people do, she replied simply. Our agreement stands. He wrote a check for $45,300. His daily salary, though it appears you've earned considerably more than that. As cameras recorded the official contract signing for company records, Wong made one final request via email. A $60,000 signing bonus specifically designated for cultural consultancy services, provided by Keisha Fernandez. With $105,300 in hand, enough to save her mother's medical care, stop the eviction, and provide breathing room for the first time in years, Keisha finally allowed herself to exhale. The jade bracelet rested on her wrist, no longer a burden of the past, but a key to her future. 6 months later, Keisha sat in her new office. Director of International Relations at Sterling Capital floor-to-ceiling windows, offered a view of the city where she'd once felt invisible. Her desk, polished walnut, not the pressed composite of lower-tier employees, held a framed photo of her mother, now receiving specialized care in a facility close to their new 2-bedroom apartment. The jade bracelet rested in a small display case beside her father's photograph, its polished surface catching the morning light. When she wore it now, the jasmine scent in her memory mingled with the fresh orchids she kept on her desk. 2 sensory connections, one to her past, one to her present. Her first official act as director had been establishing a scholarship fund for employees' children, named for her father, and implementing a comprehensive review of the company's layoff policies. Her second had been rehiring workers from her community with proper benefits and language-appropriate training materials. The contract she'd negotiated with Wong Financial had increased Sterling's Asian market share by 38% in 2 quarters. The board members who had once looked through her now addressed her as Miss Fernandez, with the same deference once reserved for Sterling himself. Even Jonathan Sterling had developed a grudging respect for her, not from any moral awakening, but from the simple arithmetic of profit. Her cultural insights and linguistic precision had opened doors previously closed to the company, as Sterling himself had put it in the last shareholders' meeting. Ms. Fernandez's unique perspective has proven unexpectedly valuable. Keisha smiled at the corporate speak translation of, "I was wrong about her." Her assistant knocked gently. "Your mother's physical therapist called. The improvements are continuing ahead of schedule." "Thank you," Keisha answered, allowing herself the small pleasure of responding in whatever language felt natural. Sometimes English, sometimes Cantonese, sometimes Spanish. In these halls where she'd once hidden her multilingual identity. Her phone chimed with a calendar reminder, the monthly board meeting in 15 minutes. 6 months ago, she had been invisible in that room, wiping fingerprints from water glasses, while executives made decisions that affected thousands of lives today. She would present her international expansion strategy, a plan projected to create 450 new jobs and increase company valuation by 18%. As she gathered her materials, her gaze fell on a newspaper clipping framed beside her father's photo. The business section headline read, "Sterling Capital Stock Soars on Hong Kong Partnership. New Director Credits Immigrant Father's Legacy." The article highlighted her unconventional rise from maintenance staff to executive leadership, with analysts praising the company's unexpected talent discovery as a model for corporate diversity. What the article didn't mention was the 30 other maintenance and support staff members who had been promoted after Keisha implemented her Hidden Talents Initiative, a company-wide program that encouraged employees at all levels to showcase their skills and education. The former security guard with an engineering degree from Nigeria, the cafeteria worker who spoke 5 languages, the IT help desk technician with a gift for product design. Murphy, meanwhile, had become a cautionary tale in corporate circles after his attempted sabotage went public. No major finance firm would touch him now. The last Keisha had heard, he was teaching business communication at a community college, ironically educating the very demographic he had once dismissed. Sterling himself remained unchanged at his core, driven by profit rather than principle, but had learned to recognize talent regardless of its packaging. He still referred to Keisha's rise as lightning in a bottle, rather than acknowledging the systemic barriers that had kept her hidden. But actions spoke louder than words, and his willingness to reform hiring and promotion practices had real-world impact beyond performative statements. As Keisha walked toward the boardroom, employees greeted her by name, some in English, others in Spanish or Cantonese. Each interaction is a small bridge between worlds. She wore her father's jade bracelet, not as a secret talisman, but as a visible symbol of her heritage and expertise. The board members rose when she entered, a sign of respect that still surprised her. As she prepared to present her vision for the company's future, Keisha thought of her mother, now taking college courses online to refresh her finance credentials, and of the cleaning staff who now looked her in the eye instead of averting their gaze. Visibility had its price, the scrutiny, the pressure, the knowledge that she represented more than just herself in these rooms. But invisibility had cost far more. The talent wasted, the voices unheard, the bridges unbuilt. "Good morning," she began in 3 languages, watching the board members' appreciative nods. "Today, we're going to discuss how embracing multiple perspectives transforms not just our culture, but our bottom line." Keisha clicked to her first slide, displaying the 32% market share increase alongside the 24% improvement in employee retention since implementing her initiatives. Numbers spoke every language, especially in boardrooms. "Talent doesn't always arrive in expected packages," she continued, "but companies that recognize it, regardless of its wrapping, gain competitive advantage. Let me show you how." She led the company's leadership into a future her father could only have dreamed of, one where bridges between worlds became highways of opportunity. Has someone ever underestimated your potential? Did you have a moment when you finally showed your true value, just like Keisha? Share your story in the comments below. I want to hear how you transformed from invisible to invaluable. If you enjoyed this story of hidden talent and unexpected triumph, don't keep it to yourself. Share to your loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe to Fortune Tales. By Simple for more powerful narratives that will inspire you to reveal your own hidden strengths. Hit that like button if you've ever been underestimated, and ring the notification bell to never miss our weekly uploads of life-changing stories. Remember, your next chapter could be just one brave decision away, just like Keisha's was. Fortune Tales, where your potential becomes your power. Behind every headline is a human story. At Fortune Tales, we go deeper, where emotion meets evidence and drama reveals the system. If this story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, don't forget to subscribe. There's more to come.